someone from Al-Anon was like, have you ever gone to ACOA, which stands for Adult Children of Alcoholics?
Oh, okay.
And to be clear, neither of my parents have alcohol abuse issues, but
Right.
ACOA is for people who come from dysfunctional families.
Okay.
And that covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And like, let me say, there's worst case scenarios of abusive families, you know, like burning with cigarettes, malnourished, like the textbook abuse.
Yeah.
I'm not from that type of environment. In a lot of ways, I was very taken care of. And in a lot of ways, I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I was like, I feel so desperate to feel better that I'm going to start going to this 12-step thing.
Right. See if you get anything out of it. Why not?
Yeah. I'm not above trying things.
Yeah.
I'm also curious as a person.
Yeah. And anyone that starts any type of therapy, it's like, listen, none of us go unscathed.
No.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's different
No.
levels or different things. It's like, but all of us have, and we behave a certain way because of things that happened to us in
Of
the
course.
past. And yeah, tapping into that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a great thing. Why wouldn't you want to understand why you are the way you are in ways that you can feel better?
Right.
And like, ultimately, if you want to be in a relationship and a real relationship, you should have a better relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. I think a lot of people think if I just find that great person, then it's all going to click into place. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no.
Maybe you will see a great person and you'll still be all fucked up and they'll be like, oh, this person's good, but they've got a lot of problems.
Yeah, that, or I've seen people that just like, they're very high anxiety or like indecisive and they like being with someone because they just are then just submissive to whatever that person wants to do.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, I don't have to think anymore. I'll just do whatever they want to do. And then, and whether it's, you know, they just do anything to make them happy, but even if the other person's happy, they're just like, oh, okay, I don't have to make decisions anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not tapping into like, what do I really want out of this?
It's crazy how often I think people, and more so women than men, because we're conditioned for this, are just like, if I'm with someone, then that's great. Then finally I've achieved my goal, which is to be a girl with a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And that's great. Having a partner is great, but what, like, don't you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Also? And hopefully those two things happen at the same time.
Right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Shooters Gotta Shoot. I am your host, Erica Spera, and I have a great guest for you guys this week. But first, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, okay? Literally today, the elevators were out. Me and the guest and the producer all walked up 7 flights of fucking stairs. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is the least you can do for us, okay? We are working very hard to make this work. But we want clips. We want the clips that badly that we're willing to go through hell to just get to the studio, okay? So you're here. Just hit the button. Hit the subscribe button. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Help your girl out, all right? And if you have a little cash or you want access to a live show we have coming up, join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/shootersgottashoot. There's always a preview at the end of this episode if you want a little taste, but we're going to have a dope live show just for Patreon members only, and you get to decide who's on the show, and you get an extra episode every week with some real juicy behind the scenes. Find out what blast from the past recently came back into my life a little bit. So go head on over there, patreon.com/shootersgottashoot. So without further ado, hit it, Fonzie. All right, my guest this week, you might have heard her on the Hot Mess Comedy Hour, Sirius XM, or her new podcast, Dog Pig. Everybody, please put your hands together for a nice welcome to one of the most badass comedians I know, Andrea, Allan.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm so happy to be here, man.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh, yeah. It's
That
great to
song's
see you.
very much your vibe.
Thank you.
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't seen you.
I know.
I feel like since the world shut down.
Dude, how weird.
I know. It's always odd. But
God.
you're one of my favorite people to run into. I always like talking to you.
I know. It's
And,
always refreshing.
You got plenty of topics for us to talk about.
I'm a fucking lunatic, man. I got workbooks. I got stories. I am a true nightmare.
Listen, I appreciate when a guest comes preprepared.
Oh,
first
yeah.
of all.
Oh, I love your pod. It's so good.
Oh, thank you. And I
Yeah.
appreciate when people work on themselves.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? We don't want to have shitbags on this pod.
Do the work. God.
So real quick, little background on you.
Mm-hmm.
When I first met you, when you were doing comedy, you were not sober.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you
And
met non-sober Andrea?
I met non-sober
what
Andrea.
What a privilege for you.
I believe Otto's Shrunken Head. That would be the open mic we hosted. That was just literally your type of bar,
Woo!
a wild rock place.
Tiki bar smelled like fucking piss.
I don't know why I was ever there that much. But
yeah. We spent a lot of time there. I think I was at the sort of the tail end of my drunkenness. So you caught me at like my all MVP 5 Long Island iced teas, going home with questionable people, saying questionable things.
Well, I remember your bits.
Oh my
would
God,
often just be just were about you blacking out all the time,
dude.
Which we can laugh now because you're better now.
Yeah, you're doing good now, babe.
Yeah, you're hanging in there.
Actually, David Spector. I don't know if you remember David
Oh,
Spector.
I know David Spector.
He's a comedian, and he was my friend. Like he knew me in that time period too. And he was like, there's like crazy people. Obviously, there's crazy people in comedy that are like not comedians, but just like maybe homeless, maybe schizophrenic, maybe a little bit of all these categories who are just like staples in our lives. He was like, I thought you were one of those. He was like, I thought you were like a woman who lived on the train. I was like,
God.
I'm fucking and I was like, that hurts deeply, but also like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, because also you were someone when you were drinking, I would only see every once in a while.
Yeah,
I wasn't steadily running into you. And then when you got sober, I felt like I saw you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had my shit together.
Well, or a lot of comics are like, well, I'll just replace this addiction with another one.
Oh,
yeah. It's a nice little transition.
Oh, don't worry. I moved my alcoholism over to weed, and then sex has always been in the mix.
Okay.
Risky sexual behavior, sex with people who are awful, that type of thing. So, like, I wasn't healed, quote unquote, but I definitely wasn't, like, falling down staircases and, like, sending people long paragraph text messages in the middle of the night. Like, that behavior was ending at that period.
It chilled out a little?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, do you mind if I ask you what was your like rock bottom moment that you were finally decided to become sober?
It was sort of like I would say I was microdosing on bottoms for a long time. Like I was just doing humiliating things on such a consistent basis. But there were a few of them. One of them was like I was at a party and there was a guy there that I was like in love with who like would secretly date me but never claim me as his girlfriend.
We all have those.
That.
Sober or not, we all have those.
Isn't that great for the self-esteem? So I'll just stay in that relationship for 2.5 years. Let it grade me down to an empty vessel of a human. So he was like talking to a girl at the party and I was just like housing Jack Daniels from the bottle, being like, this is fine. And some guy who I met briefly was like, oh, hey, you're Angela. And that's not my name.
You're like, sure, tonight I am.
I'll be Angela for you. I'll just do whatever you want, eh? No, I had like a rage reaction because I was really angry at the situation, not on this guy. And I was just like, yeah, I'm fucking Angela. I'm an angel. I'm a fucking, like, it made no sense. And then I backed like away from him and I fell down a spiral staircase. This was like a nice apartment.
Yeah.
You know, like the apartments that have multiple floors.
I was going to say just 2 floors alone.
2's tough.
Yeah. Then spiral staircase.
Spiral.
Fancy.
In the middle and everyone in the party could see it. It was like an open spiral. So it was just like like boo! Bloody legs, like just a fucking nightmare. And then my best friend like got me a do you remember like black car times where like you had to take a black car back to Brooklyn?
The sketchy
God.
gypsy cabs.
Yeah. Like this will be $45. And you're lucky I pick you up. So she took me in that and I like bled all over the car. I threw up in the car.
Oh God.
She had to give the guy like hundreds of dollars. And I just like woke up in my bed the next day not remembering it. Not like, and like seeing the fucking messages I was sending this guy like poetry / like, why don't you like me? It was just like so much of like, who is this person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this person that I am is so different from who I want to be or who I feel like I am deep down. Like it was just like very frightening to be one person while not drinking and then a completely different, like very hurt person while drinking. But then, so that wasn't even the end, but that was one of the like hits, I would say.
Where you were like, maybe I should slow down a little?
Yeah. There was like counting drinks. There was like, let me change my relationship with alcohol time period. And then one time my mom visited me in the city, and I was supposed to meet her at her hotel at like 10 a.m. And I went to like some shitty bar in Queens with some guy that I barely knew or liked, who was a bartender. Like, I used to fuck bartenders a lot.
Well, free
you
drinks.
know, dude, you gotta fuck bartenders, you gotta fuck drug dealers. I've always said that. I still do it with the drug dealers, because who pays for drugs? I'm a hot chick. I'm not paying for drugs. No.
Oh boy.
I'm getting my ketamine for free.
Okay.
But so I just hung out with this guy. I didn't even like this guy. I just liked the attention that I was getting from him.
And
the
you
free
weren't
shit.
drunk.
No,
But it was just 10 a.m.
No, so I went out the night before being like, I'm going to pick my mom up in the delusional. I'm going to take the train to Queens, hang out with this guy.
Yeah.
It turned into like 5 a.m. hookah bar, you know, where am I?
I know what part of Queens you were in.
Yeah. It's fucking, what is the name of it? I don't know. The one with all the, like the rug shops and the mosques and all that shit. I'm forgetting the name. But, and then I fell asleep and missed my mom. My mom was calling me. She's sitting in a hotel till like 2 p.m. That's when I wake up. And I'm just like, fuck, man. What a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. You don't think you're a piece of shit, but you are a piece of shit.
Well, I was going to say, did your mom say anything to you like, hey, you're drinking? Or was it just that, oh, I was worried?
She was super mad. And that was the first time we were getting like lunch afterwards. And I was like, I think I have a problem. And like my grandfather was an alcoholic, her father. And so that was like tough for her. Like, it wasn't, at this point, she wasn't really like comfortable admitting he had drinking issues.
Wait, sorry, your grandfather and your father?
My grandfather had.
Oh, okay.
And
Just
so
your
her
grandpa.
father. So
Right.
so now her kid being like, I got a problem. Like, she was like, you should work on it. But it wasn't like really something that she was like comfortable getting into with me.
And you're also Canadian.
Yeah.
Which, Canadian culture.
Yeah.
More
Woo!
drinking heavy. Yeah.
We love drinking and passing out, going to the bar,
Yeah.
you know.
Sorry.
Hey, bunch of hosers getting fucking slam basted. So then that was a bad one. And then one of the last ones was like, I was dating this guy again, a guy who wouldn't date me. Another one of my boyfriends.
Which, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I say,
Yeah.
I feel like since I've known you, I've been like, oh, Andrea always has a boyfriend.
No.
And it's so interesting to hear now. You're
Not
like, okay,
at
well,
all.
drunk Andrea thought she had boyfriends.
Dude, sober Andrea. For years I was still like dating people who didn't treat me well because that's what I thought I deserved. I had a lot of boyfriends where I said it was open or didn't really ask about what we were.
Yeah.
Because I was so afraid to like ask for someone to be with me
Right.
in a meaningful way. So I always had dudes that I fucked regularly. And there were times when I just wanted to have casual sex. I wasn't just this like
we're all
sad
human.
puppy that was just like, no, please date me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had many relationships where we were like, they started fucking other people and I didn't know it, and we'd be together for like 2 years, you know, like,
Damn.
yeah, a lot of like really sad shit. But this guy, gutter punk, lived in a storage unit, met him at some fucking stupid Brooklyn thing. You know,
Oh, God.
he did tarot cards. He was cool. I mean, he's hot. He was super hot and aloof, and all the art star bitches like loved him.
Yep.
And the fact that he would like sleep over at my place at the end of the night was like, oh, they all want him, but he wants me.
Yep.
Not really, but
But it feels like it when
it
they go home with
does.
you.
Yeah,
We've all
you're-
been there.
dude.
It's okay. It's like you're getting chosen, but not in the way to date.
no,
It's in a different level.
But I
Yeah.
would take anything. It's like crumbs, you
Yeah,
know,
it is
like
crumbs.
when you're just used to nothing, and like neglect, even just a slight acknowledgement feels like fucking drugs, man.
Especially other women in the room.
Oh,
like
yeah.
your competitiveness
Oh yeah,
naturally increases. It's
Oh,
like,
I'm a rugby player at heart. I was like, you
Yeah.
dumb bitches.
right? You're like, I'm gonna start ovulating because you are, and I'm gonna compete for this man. Like, two things.
Yeah, we're like jacked up on that, and that works to their advantage. That we're all like competing for
Oh, for
fucking
sure.
dusty dick that doesn't even matter. Shout out to all the 22-year-olds that are like just pining over dudes with no bed frame,
Yeah.
because their brains aren't fully developed. But yeah, he invited me to an art show of his. And I was like, oh, I'm going to this art show, and he's going to like show me off as his like
Yeah, with him.
not even girlfriend, but like lady he knows,
Yeah.
whatever. He sends me the wrong address. He sends me the address to an after party. So this is so like I'm in my cool, like, American Apparel. Remember those dresses
Yeah.
that had the low backs?
Uh-huh.
I had that on. I had my spiky heels. I was like, I'm going to look so hot. I'm going to be his girlfriend finally.
Mm-hmm.
I go to this bar. No one's there. And I'm just like, like, it felt like going to a high school dance and no one's asking you to dance. You know that feeling?
Yeah.
So you're like wildly looking around and being
Or just
like,
your first one at a party where you don't know the host.
oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like you're like sitting in different areas of the bar, and I kept calling him and he was not responding. I was texting him. I was like, do I have a fucking thing? And then after like 45 minutes, I just got hammered in that bar by myself. And I walked home across the Williamsburg Bridge just sobbing, calling my mom, being like, no one wants to love me. Like, it was just like, dude, this has got to go. Like, how many times can you walk in the streets of New York crying, hammered,
and
like,
live?
Yeah.
Honestly,
dude,
just survive.
I mean, the amount of cell phones I lost, unparalleled. The amount of
Like,
cab drivers' phone numbers I got, being like, you know what, man, I just feel like, and they're like secretly trying to like fuck me or whatever. I think I'm making like meaningful connections. So yeah, I put myself in a lot of danger. That's also something that I'm like, you know, some bad things did happen, but I just was like, this is not sustainable, man.
When you well, I was gonna say sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, let's say.
Well, I was gonna say when you first became sober and then were trying to date.
Oh God.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
One, I think a lot of people that then become sober almost feel this like high pressure to be super sexual or super fun in some way.
Cool sober girl.
Yeah, because you want to be like, no, just because I'm not drinking doesn't mean like I'm still not flirty or whatever, you know. And I've heard many comics like make the joke literally being like, hey, just because I'm sober doesn't mean I won't fuck you. Like, but it literally is this, I don't know, pressure I think a lot of people feel.
Quite the opposite. I'll fuck you right away because I have nothing left to have fun with. I'll blow you under the table. What are we doing? My main vice for survival has just been taken away from me. Yeah. I'll give you my phone number on the subway. What's going on?
So those jokes are true that everybody says.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would still go to bars and I would order seltzer.
Yeah.
I was like behaving like a drunk person. You know, I was like and then also a little problematic queen over here, like hooking up with dudes who were drinking. I mean, I never did anything out of pocket, but
it is weird. You're like, I'm sober there.
You're shit face. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, one of the first really bad, and this is when I was like, oh, you have to stop like hooking up with drunk dudes. A comedian, actually. You know, we're both like big sluts. We met at an open mic. I was just basically like, hey, you want to fuck? And he was like, hell yeah. So he came and to my apartment a few nights later. He had been like out drinking. I was at home just, you know, drinking coffee and fucking, you know,
stay awake. He's on his way
back and forth. He came over and he was so fucking drunk. And it was the first time where I was like, oh, this is unattractive. Like I'm seeing this in like the light of day, and it's kind of a tough, all the like smoothing over the edges that like drunk sex tends to have is gone. Like you think you're a fucking rock star and you look like shit. But if you both are fucked up, then it's fine. It's fun. But like he came in, he was like trying to eat my ass in the kitchen. I was like, dude, we literally just said hello. Like you're trying to bend me over. You're also not even hitting the hole. Like it's just this sloppy nightmare.
Oh God.
I'm like, my roommate is right. Like she's sleeping in there. Like I'm a nice person who's like, who's, you know, lucid now. This is a fucking mess, dude.
Yeah. Or like I might be, you know, a fun kind of slut right now, but also I'd have normal boundaries.
Dude, I had a glass of water 20 minutes ago. Like, what are we doing? That's where I cook, man. You're not even doing a good job. And he took me, we went into my bedroom and we started fucking. It was fine. But then halfway through, he tries to take the condom off, which is like drunk.
Yeah, the dirty move. Yeah.
I wouldn't have noticed that. Yeah. Or maybe I would have and just kind of let it slide. But I was just like, dude, I can see you. Like, you're all fucking Jack Daniels, like sloppily trying. I'm like, I'm literally looking right at you while you do this. So now I have to be like, you got to put that back on. and then have like a weird speech at this guy about how fucked up that is, but I'm still not like emotionally doing that good. So I like let him put it back on and keep fucking. And I'm like, this ain't it.
Yeah. No.
And then maybe the worst part of all of it, he made me watch stand up until like 7 a.m. He put up prior clips. He was like, look at the technique. And I was like, first you try to date rape me, and then you make me watch stand up until 7 a.m.
Oh, God.
I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I'm going to fucking kill you where you stand.
Yeah.
You are raping me and then raping my time. I fucking.
You're raping my sleep.
Yes, dude.
I want to go to bed.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah. So dating messy people as a sober person becomes not cute very quickly. And I do, my current boyfriend does drink, and like his group of friends do drink, and they're very fun. Like they have healthy relationships with alcohol. I love hanging out with them. But I do now, as someone who's been sober for like 8 years, at like 2 a.m. when everyone's getting a little tuned, I go like, I'm going home, you know?
Yeah.
But that took a lot of confidence to be
Yeah.
like, I know I'm a cool, fun person. I
Yeah.
don't need to be getting pizza with you at 3.
Right.
Like-
I mean, I think a lot of people feel that sober, not just
Yeah.
with age. Where you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be
I'm tired.
in the bar this late anymore.
Yeah, no.
Like, or there's, what is the saying? Isn't there something that's like, nothing good happens after like midnight?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, maybe we should wrap it up and take it home.
It's also like a gangster move to be like, yeah, I don't need this. Goodbye.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
people are like, oh, I've been wanting to leave for 45 minutes. And
Yeah.
you finally did it. So,
I feel that way. I drink, but I'm not a huge drinker. But I
Yeah.
feel that way when I turn down shots.
yeah.
People are
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't want it.
Dude, that's what being sober feels like. You're like, I'm not better than you. And you're like, but I am better than
Yeah, I
you.
go,
Yeah.
I'm-
I have control.
yeah. Everyone else is doing one, and I'm saying no. It's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty stubborn bitch.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I stand my
I'll
ground.
say no when I want to say no.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I was curious about was like, especially in early dating when you're sober, I'm partly curious. Do you feel like men would plan better dates because they couldn't just do the easy, quick drink?
Sure. Yeah. You weed people out a lot as a sober person. Like an alcoholic is not dating a sober person, or maybe they're
Yeah.
trying initially and then they'll fade pretty quickly. But I go out the gate. I'm like, hey, I'm sober and 5'11". What are we doing? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
And they're like, cool. Usually, if they're not cool, I'm not really interested in them. They're still men, so they'll do like, let's get a coffee. And also, I don't need a crazy elaborate date
No, I
for
mean,
the
especially
first.
online is very much a gamble. So I
Yeah,
respect
yeah.
it.
But I think because I'm like a person who's mindful of time, a person who's mindful of my mental health, I do turn down like a person who's just doing like a bullshit thing. Because I'm
Right.
like, you don't care. I actually do. I do like a little trap on my dating apps.
This is what I was also going to ask. Is
yeah.
do you have it on your profile?
Oh, yeah.
Sober somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where I'm like, if they don't notice that I'm sober, then they're not reading the profile.
Well, they usually don't.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh yeah,
That's
read
why-
the profile, dude.
They don't. A lot
I
of
know they
people
don't.
Yeah.
But I'm not dating you if you don't.
Right.
I might fuck you if you're hot enough.
Yeah.
But if you don't, so this is how I put like the gnarliest thirst trap as my first picture. Like
of course, yeah.
ass fucking one, just to like get those numbers up. But 2, if you like that, like on Hinge specifically, as if you like that as the first person, I'm like, you're sloppy. Go down, like
Yeah.
the picture with me and my friends.
Not as obvious.
We all know that's the one you're looking at.
Even if it's not the first one. Yeah.
Dude,
You have
yeah.
the bikini picture, you're like, that's the one you send the like on.
Right.
You're like, okay.
Come on. Screenshot it, jerk off to it. We all know what it's here
Yeah.
for, but give a fuck.
Yeah. A little
You know?
bit. Mhm.
I need you to give a fuck right away now.
Mhm.
And if that eliminates some people, that's fine. But sober dates are also like, let's go see a show. Let's fucking like go to the park. Like it does sort of, people are like, let's do activities. I like dates that are activities.
Same.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
what are we going to sit there and stare at each other? If this is not a vibe, then like it's super not going to be a vibe if I'm drinking water
Yeah.
and looking at you.
Right. I just did a coffee one, but it was like we got it to go and just walked around.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
it's also an easier way for people to like open up and talk. 'cause
Yeah.
You're not just directly staring at each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the first time I've done that in a minute.
How was it?
It was fine. It was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was something of, I kind of noticed he was a little like timid and shy.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is really good for you.
Sure. Dude, people just having conversations with other people.
Yeah.
Of course, booze is a huge part of dating. People have a lot of anxiety. I get it. I get wanting to take the edge off. It makes sense that people like to get a drink. I'm not like anti that, but like I'm sober and I've been to a lot of therapy and I have bipolar disorder. I got a lot going on. I need to like be upfront. I need to be, instantly like vulnerable with you to be like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is what it is to date me. I'm also a comedian, which is a nightmare. I'm a human red flag. So let's get down to brass tacks immediately.
Well, I'm curious, have you ever told someone I'm sober and then they still like plan a date at a bar?
Oh, yeah.
Would you automatically just be like, no?
Depends how hot they are.
Or it depends. I had a friend recently just doesn't really like to drink, but she does sometimes. And the guy looked up, he said, this place apparently has good mocktails.
Oh, cutie.
And I was like, oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I feel like that's the version of like, okay, drinks, but you made a little effort to,
just a tiny little crumb.
Little
Look
research.
At that bar right on the ground. Someone thinking about your preferences like a goddamn hero.
Right.
But yes and no. If I'm just looking for something sexual with a person and they throw a bar hangout there, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to meet you and check out if we have chemistry.
Right.
If I'm being more serious, then it depends on the bar and sort of like what they're proposing. Like if it's like, hey, I live around the corner from X dive bar, probably not. But if it's like, oh, I like this place and it has food and like whatever, or something cool, then yeah, of course, I'll go to a bar.
I mean, I like any date that's like, get an app,
God,
whether we're drinking or not. But like, get a little,
give me some fucking tapas if I have to talk to another human being from the internet.
Right.
It's tough.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if we just do a drink, I'm very like, at the end of this drink, I should be able to call it.
Yeah.
And leave and nobody be mad.
Oh, for sure.
If we're only offering a drink, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't care that I got dressed.
No.
I feel like we could do 20 minutes and wrap this up.
Doesn't that suck though? When you're like, hey, this sucks, right?
Yeah.
It's a good thing to say, but boy, is it hard.
Yeah, I've never done it that way, but I appreciate when they read the room of you don't get another drink and they don't get another drink.
Yeah.
So even if you do the polite, let's sit and talk for like 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, how do I exit?
Oh God, it's so bad. It's hard to do.
But I've oddly thought about just going straight sober for a while I've just been like kind of on my fitness kick right now.
Nice.
And so to help with that, and also, I have been curious about, I was like, I think it would make people plan better dates.
Sure.
And be more thoughtful.
Yeah.
And kind of, also, I think it automatically, even if people don't want to give this vibe, I do think it gives a vibe of more like, yeah, I'm looking to get to know you on this date.
Of course.
And your chances of getting laid are pretty slim to none.
Yeah.
Because I've had that of like, I just did a date that was a Saturday night. I never do that because I'm usually have shows.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, screw it, this guy seems fun, blah, blah. But then on the date, I was like, oh, the exit from this is hard.
Yeah.
Because it's Saturday night.
We could go for hours.
Yeah, it's a very like, oh, they're down to like hop around, go to more spots. And I was like, ooh, you're like, it's 8 p.m. and I'm gonna lie and say I'm going home.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
where you're like, they're not gonna believe this, but
no, I know.
I need it out.
God, I don't feel well. Oh, my friend just called me and there's an emerge. Everyone knows what's happening.
Yeah, but the guy was like super touchy out the gate. And I was like, oh, you think you're going to get laid just because it's Saturday?
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't even met you. Like, this is us meeting the first time. I was like, woof. Not for me. Not even like an arm touch first. Straight to the lower back.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, sir, okay.
We're going to zone 3?
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing?
I know.
I'll initiate the touch. Come on.
Yeah. That's a scenario I'm like, let me initiate.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I like to be pursued, but not in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you are, I treat the dating apps when I'm trying to date seriously. I am like, I'm looking at the apps in the morning and I'm looking at them at night and I'm not swiping like a maniac during the day.
Yeah, that just fatigues you.
Yeah.
I've done
then
that.
I'm only going on dates with people that are a fuck yeah. I'm not doing the like, maybe.
That's been my recent strategy.
Yeah.
Like, if this person really wanted to go out quickly, ask you out quickly, would you say yes? And when I'm like, then what are you doing, Erica?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Working out of a place of scarcity and loneliness is just a tunnel to feeling worse, you know? And that's hard because we're also women in New York City. There's so many hot, cool bitches in New York City. It's really hard.
Yeah. And some people, it's like, yeah, they do look better in their pictures or, you know, you could learn their personality, but it's like you'd be burned enough times where you're like, I was given this a chance for personality.
Yes.
And the personality was trash.
Oh.
So you're like, oh, now I'm just mad on two counts.
The amount of ugly guys I've fucked and been like, you're welcome. The amount of dick that I wish I could rescind, been like, oh my God, what a charity case.
Yeah.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans now and pay for what you got because it is insane. But I wanted to connect with that person and I didn't want to be shallow. Now I'm like, I have bars that need to be hit.
Yeah, it's a hard combo. You don't want to chase the spark because the spark often is a major red flag.
Yeah, sure.
And doesn't last.
Especially if you're crazy like me. Yeah. Oh my God. The amount of people that turn that engine on, run away.
Yeah, exactly. It is a charismatic thing. But at the same time, I recently started going to therapy and I was talking to my therapist about this because she was like, well, why would you go on the second date even though you didn't like love the first date?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, some people like they're nervous and they're shy and they're not like fully doing their thing. But I was annoyed with this dude. I was like, he keeps texting me, but he's not making the move for the date. And I was like, yeah, I go, but that's where I draw the line. I'm like, I'm not doing the work for you.
No.
I said I would go out again. Ask me out again.
You have pussy on the table. Are you crazy? Why are you edging me along? Why are you breadcrumbing me?
Well,
I'm a full-on grown-up.
Well, it's often because it's like, oh, they just want to hook up. They don't really want to date
of course. They also people want to feel wanted.
Yeah, stupid.
And it sucks. You're wasting people's time.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves. And men and women do it. But people who enjoy attention and know that they're hurting other people's feelings in the name of that attention, you know what you're doing. When people are like, oh, I don't know. I think they like me, but you know when people like you, stop it. Get validated somewhere else because you're genuinely hurting nice people.
Oh.
And you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I've said this on the pod. I'm like, that's the worst version of like fuckboy or like liar.
Yeah.
I'd say men and women, but the ultimate is just when you know how the other person feels, you know they have feelings for you. Even if they don't fucking say it, you just know.
It's your responsibility.
And you are leading it on. You're like, oh, I know they're into me and I'm not into this. I personally cannot continue either hooking up with that person or seeing that person. Like,
also, what are you getting out of this? Just attention. And but then also like seeing the hurt in that person's, you're out of your mind. And this comes from all these dudes who half fake dated me for all those years. And I'm like, how did you sleep at night? Like knowing that I was like crying and upset all the time. It's just like, I think you're really fucked up. I think it's people, there's ways to be fucked up towards a person, and I think that's one of the top ways.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so fuck that.
So I wanted to ask you as well, you, I forget the name of I don't want to mess up the name of the program that you did. So in addition, I assume, did you do like an Alcoholics Anonymous program to get sober? Kind
of. I think I was like in denial a little bit about how severe my problem was when I first stopped. So I was kind of doing the whole like, let me stop for 6 months. And then immediately I was like, oh my God, my life is so much less complicated. Like this needs to fully stop.
Okay.
You know, and I was also like, again, I have bipolar disorder. I didn't know that at the time. I got diagnosed pretty recently.
Being an alcoholic is a common symptom of having bipolar disorder.
You're managing like wild mania and all that stuff. Alcohol helps you sleep. It helps you sort of like calm the mania and you think it's helping you with the depression, but it's not. Nope. It's actually long-term making it really hard. So I had all these, getting sober was a great first step, but I had all these other problems. The sobriety was one thing. They call it comorbidities. So it's like a lot of the time if you have addiction, there's probably other mental illnesses attached to it. Or you're using the alcohol to deal with the other mental illnesses, whatever it may be. Like usually the gang's all here.
Yeah.
Like people aren't just rampant addicts because they're fine. You know, like how does that make sense? So it was a long journey after that to sort of be like, why am I so sad all the time? Why is my self-esteem so low? And I started going to cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was a huge step. And it was because, and a lot of this stuff stems, I don't have a great relationship with my dad. My dad was not a very emotionally available person. And like, you know, everyone has that shitty trope of like daddy issues, which is so fucking condescending. But it is also accurate of like, if you don't provide your child with like good role models for male, you know, relationships and attachment, like of course I'm not going to feel secure in asking for those things from men. He never demonstrated it, so why would I think that I deserved it? So I just like I put a big boundary up. I didn't speak to my dad for a long time. I went to cognitive behavioral therapy, and then I started to go to this 12-step thing. I did a little 12-step with alcohol. I've also gone to Al-Anon because I like to really get into it with like other addicts and like take care of them a little bit. So I started to sort of like explore that facet of my bad behavior.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about, was going to Al-Anon, and then this one I hadn't heard of. You told me ACOA.
Yeah. So they're two, like, they're kind of birds of a feather, but they're very similar. So Al-Anon is for people who like chronically take care of like addicts and people who cause them harm.
Yeah, like I think the often example we hear is like someone is married to an alcoholic or dating an alcoholic, and finally they start going to that support group to help them deal with their partner.
Taking care of a constantly sick person and not having the self-esteem to leave. And I think Al-Anon sort of put this idea in my mind of like, why do I feel like the only way I can be loved is if I take care of another person, or I'm this like ride or die person who just like holds everyone's trauma and is helping everyone all the time and is the most loyal, loving human being at the cost of my own sanity all the time. Why is that the only way that I feel like I can be with another person?
Yeah.
You know, like basically like being someone's bitch in a lot of ways, you know, that's a shitty way to phrase it.
I mean, I was going to say it's just feeling needed.
Yeah. And you're being manipulative.
I've had this, and I've taught this theory of just like not even related to alcohol.
Yeah.
But just with a lot of men liking needy, sad, depressed women. Yeah. It's like, oh, I feel needed in this scenario.
In a lot of ways, you're being manipulative. Yeah. And this is not me being cruel to those people. Those people are unwell and that's why they're doing it.
Right.
But like, if I'm this person's everything, then they can't leave me. And a lot of people in Al-Anon, like, their boyfriends move into their places and they don't pay rent for them. And they often will like physically or emotionally abuse them. And they'll go, oh, he doesn't mean that. It's not, you know, it's not about him being abusive to me. It's about him being sick.
Right. Or it's, the excuses of how you're being treated or things they say. You're like, well, they don't mean it. They were drunk.
You're not even a part of the equation. You're thinking this has nothing to do with your well-being, which is a crazy way to live your life. It's insane.
I know. And you can't tell people like to leave people. But at the same time, there is something of like, for some people, like, because you're still there, picking up so many pieces and still doing so much for them, they really haven't hit that bottom yet.
No. And you can't ask people to do that. Yeah. It's real. And I've had a lot of trouble with female friends watching them, and male friends actually. Shout out to Mike Coscarelli, who've stayed in relationships, and I've been so sad being like, oh my God, you deserve so much better than this. And I want you to leave so badly, and you won't. And I can see this other person knowing you won't leave and just continuing to mistreat you. And it's like, it makes me like panic because that was me on a certain level. That was my mom with my dad. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't fucking be in this cycle again. I'm going to kill myself. I am legit going to go insane if I am in another relationship where I feel empty afterwards. All these relationships, by the end of it, I was just like this shell.
I have a friend that has a line of like, whether people are stuck in that or thinking about going back to their ex or whatever, or they start things up again. She just goes, you'll be done when you're ready.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
It's something that's just like, I don't want to hear about this, but like, you'll just know when you're done.
Yeah.
And there's something to that almost being like, you just tap into their subconscious. It's like,
of course,
this is done.
Yeah.
You're just not letting it go yet.
You're not going to do it. And I'm not going to do it for you. No matter how logically I explain or how much I'm like, you don't deserve this. You're not doing that for a friend. And you're not doing that for yourself until you're like so fucked up. So I was so fucked up. And then Al-Anon, someone from Al-Anon was like, have you ever gone to ACOA, which stands for Adult Children of Alcoholics?
Oh, okay.
And to be clear, neither of my parents have alcohol abuse issues, but ACOA is for people who come from dysfunctional families. Okay. And that covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And like, let me say, there's worst case scenarios of abusive families, you know, like burning with cigarettes, malnourished, like the textbook abuse.
Yeah.
I'm not from that type of environment. In a lot of ways, I was very taken care of. And in a lot of ways, I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I was like, I feel so desperate to feel better that I'm going to start going to this 12-step thing.
Right. See if you get anything out of it. Why not?
Yeah. I'm not above trying things.
Yeah.
I'm also curious as a person.
Yeah. And anyone that starts any type of therapy, it's like, listen, none of us go unscathed.
No.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's different levels
No.
or different things. It's like, but all of us have, and we behave a certain way because of things that happened to us in
Of
the
course.
past. And yeah, tapping into that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a great thing. Why wouldn't you want to understand why you are the way you are in ways that you can feel better?
Right.
And like, ultimately, if you want to be in a relationship and a real relationship, you should have a better relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. I think a lot of people think if I just find that great person, then it's all going to click into place. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no.
Maybe you will see a great person and you'll still be all fucked up and they'll be like, oh, this person's good, but they've got a lot of problems.
Yeah, that, or I've seen people that just like, they're very high anxiety or like indecisive and they like being with someone because they just are then just submissive to whatever that person wants to do.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, I don't have to think anymore. I'll just do whatever they want to do. And then, and whether it's, you know, they just do anything to make them happy, but even if the other person's happy, they're just like, oh, okay, I don't have to make decisions anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not tapping into like, what do I really want out of this?
It's crazy how often I think people, and more so women than men, because we're conditioned for this, are just like, if I'm with someone, then that's great. Then finally I've achieved my goal, which is to be a girl with a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And that's great. Having a partner is great, but what, like, don't you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Also? And hopefully those two things happen at the same time.
Right.
So I started going to ACOA and it was like they have this laundry list of like, if any of these things apply to you, you probably qualify for it. And I read this list and it was like, if more than 3 of these apply to you, then you probably qualify for it. And I remember reading it and being like, oh, fuck. Every single one.
The worst checklist ever. I was going to say, you had a chart here that I wanted to ask you what it was, but also...
I'll read you the list.
Yeah, read the list so listeners.
This was a real...
We had one, there was this book we did about, it was like emotional blackmail.
Oh.
And there was like a list like that going through and you're just like, woof. Like there's always...
Woof.
Yeah.
Also, may I say, like, dysfunctional families, like, are fairly... people are dysfunctional. Like you said, we've been through... like, and also our parents didn't maybe have the tools.
Yeah.
Like, they're good people and want the best for you. Sometimes they don't have the tools, and so they fuck up.
Yeah.
And so I want to unfuck that up, you know? And I think that's...
Yeah.
Your parents would want that for you.
Yeah. We're all doing the best we can.
We really are. All right, so this is the list. We become isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. We become approval seekers and lose our identity in the process. That one a lot is...
that's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah. Like kind of what we were just talking about. We are frightened by angry people or any personal criticism. We either become alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. Yikes. We live from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by weakness in our love and friend relationships. And that's an interesting one, like the saving aspect.
Yeah.
And also, like, I used to do this where I would date people who I knew I was like more attractive or had a better career or something about it, where I was like, they're not a threat to me and they're not going to leave me. And then they do.
And
like,
that fucks with you. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the same thing like we said, when you date someone you're like, you just think is like not that attractive.
Yeah.
But then even more so when you're dating them and you're like, oh, they're probably in love with me. And then they don't want to really date you. You're like, what?
I know.
You're like, I couldn't get you. I'm like, that fucks my self-esteem way more.
Oh, yeah. I put up a safeguard. I put up the baby gates.
Yeah.
And it still hurt my feelings. What a nightmare.
Oof.
We have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it's easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults. That's a big one. This one's huge for me, too. We get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. I still struggle with this one.
Yeah.
People pleasing. I do it almost immediately. Like, even in conversations where people are like emotionally dumping on me, I'm like, I should fix this. Yeah. Why am I not
Mhm.
fixing this? I'm a nice person.
Mm. Yeah.
This is one of mine. We become addicted to excitement. And this is my whole, dating out of control, insane people.
Yeah.
Because like it's so exciting when you do get them. And then it's a heartbreak when they go away. And then they come back and you're just like, oh, fuck yeah. Give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's also the spark, like I said, from the first date.
I know, right?
It's chasing the spark thing.
Yeah, and genuine spark is real and it's beautiful. But a lot of the time I think people confuse like toxic relationships for like torrid romance.
Oh, yeah.
And this is kind of the one is the same as the other one. We confuse love and pity and tend to love people we pity and rescue. So that's again like the whole, I can date this for because they're never going to leave me.
Or it's maybe that it's like you're like, oh, they're so down and I'm going to bring them up.
Yeah.
And then they're going to like,
I'm this
thank
hero.
me forever.
I'm this martyr.
Yeah, I'm a ride or die.
Dude, ride or die sucks. Martyr sucks. Don't do it. Who cares? Why would you want to be a fucking rider? Like with your friends on a healthy level, but like.
Yeah, we call them down ass bitches. You're like, you want to be a down ass bitch.
Yeah.
But it's also like bitches have boundaries.
Yeah.
Bitches stand up for themselves.
Stop being someone's cock. For what? For some weird loyalty thing that you've made up in your head? It's stupid. Live your life. We have stuffed our feelings from our childhoods and lost the ability to feel or express feelings because it hurts so much. So like denial. And that was kind of like going, but like not asking for what I want and not acknowledging someone's hurting my feelings and just being like, whatever, I'm cool. I'm a cool girl.
Which a lot of us do that.
Oh, yeah. It's hard to ask for someone to like love you. What a crazy thing to just go up to a stranger. And that's like sober dating where it's like dating essentially when you just boil down to it is like going up to a complete stranger and being like, hi, I'm this person. Like me?
Yeah.
And you're opening up yourself for someone to be like, nah.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah. Well, I don't even say just saying like what you want. It's often the fear is just like, oh, they're going to leave.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The smallest thing.
Dude,
like,
abandonment is
they're not going to like me anymore.
Over this shit.
Yeah.
And so I think like to my point about my not getting fulfilled emotionally by my relationship with my dad, then I was so fucking scared of being abandoned and I would do anything to not feel that feeling. So not asking for anything doesn't mean, it means that like I can't be mad when they don't give it because I'm not asking for it. So I didn't ask for the thing and they said no. It was just, casual.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch more on this, but I was like, oh, fuck. You see all the like notes on this thing circling.
Good for you.
And then
we love a workbook here on the pod.
I mean, sometimes you got to get a little honest with yourself.
You have to.
And I'm not saying this program is for everyone, but it has radically sort of changed at least my relationship with myself. And so over time, I think it's bled over to how I interact with other people.
Yeah.
But one of the things, so once they get into the relationship, like romantic relation or friendships, all the stuff, they do this thing called the family history diagram.
Okay.
And
is this like literally labeling?
Yeah.
Almost like you would a medical history with like
but
you go to the doctor
feelings.
and you're like diabetes
Woo!
and prostate cancer over here.
You're like cheater all
really?
over your family.
So it's like what? Cheating, like.
So they give you the labels first to use. We love labels. So I checked off the ones that I know in my family, so I'll read those. So alcoholic and addict, or use drugs and alcohol, workaholic, worried a lot, neurotic, perfectionist, high strung, harsh, always critical, verbally abusive, chronically ill, hypochondriac. I love this one. Great cook, parentheses, always thought of herself last. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
that's
interesting.
So many women I know.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. It's such a like 50s housewife
kind
of
everyone's
throwback.
Sitting eating dinner and you're still
you're in the kitchen
running stuff to the table.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sickly. My boyfriend cooks for me now, baby. Emotionally ill, sickly child, always had her face in the mirror, thought she was better than others, sexually aggressive, not safe, argumentative, people pleaser, martyr. So those are the ones that I saw and was like, these are hitting for my family tree.
And you make the tree, it's like literally grandparents, parents, siblings, just literally any family.
Just going right down the line.
But I would assume it's basically being like, who are people you're around a lot?
And who are the people you modeled your relationships off of. Like, so much of this stuff is cyclical because when you're a kid, your like laboratory that you're in is your parents and your family members, and you're like, oh, this is what love is because this is how I see love being expressed. How are you not going to just recreate that innately? You know, it's very hard to break out of that type of thing, and a lot of people aren't conscious about it, and I don't think that we're often sort of tasked with staring at it right in the face. So that's why this thing was really helpful to me. So like up in the grandparents section, we have neurotic, great cook on the grandmother. Grandfather, we have alcoholic, workaholic, perfectionist, verbally abusive, player. There's a lot of players in my tree.
I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, hey, man. Also, I've been a player. I've shot my shot. And then on the other side, alcoholic, skirt chaser, sexually aggressive, player.
I like how we changed it to skirt chaser.
Yeah, I know. Skirt chaser. Hey.
Let's mix it up.
Skirt chaser.
Skirt chaser.
Folks.
That's Grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa's a skirt chaser.
Oh, God.
Not a player.
I know. We have all these fun, flirty words.
Literally.
It's like when...
And then women, it's like whore.
I know, right? He was just a fun guy.
Yeah, woo, what a skirt chaser.
Yeah.
Like, this fucking tramp.
This big fucking cum dumpster, dumb bitch. Should die in the fires of hell for trying to get that nut. How dare you? And then verbally abusive, worried a lot. So that's on the top. And then it just goes down. And then to my parents.
But then I'm curious, do you eventually have to identify yourself?
Oh, yeah. This is me.
It's like, and then you draw lines.
And then you get down to this guy.
Yeah, and then it becomes a dream catcher and, situation.
So mine, player, alcoholic.
These are you.
Yeah, this is me.
Okay.
Let's see. Workaholic, narcissist, great cook.
There you go.
Those are my cards.
Look at that.
That's my Pokemon
Okay.
set. So it just was like the beginning of me looking at the sort of like the pot I was cooked in.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, don't be upset with yourself. Don't be negative about yourself.
Right.
Give yourself a fucking break. And now start to like try to deal with these things and try to repair your relationship with yourself and hold people accountable or put up boundaries with people appropriately. Like, give a fuck about your own well-being.
Yeah.
And work really hard on that, and then you'll be in a place to probably date. And that was the first, after doing that stuff, that was the first time I dated someone who genuinely cared about me. And there's no accident there. Yeah.
And well, I'm curious, when you do these like programs, so I believe Alcoholics Anonymous also will be like, hey, don't date people right now.
Yeah.
Like, don't date for whatever, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. And with these programs as well, do they try to steer you away from doing that?
Yeah, you shouldn't date people when you're in recovery.
Yeah.
When I stopped drinking, I immediately started dating another recovered addict who was a sexual predator because I was primed for it. You're so vulnerable during that period of your life. You're literally having your mind blown at like all these really hard truths. And then finding comfort in another person it's not the time for it.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's why a lot of people hesitate to get sober is they think of, well, especially if they're single, they think of, okay, going on dates is going to be harder.
Yeah.
Or, being vulnerable and have to share this thing.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, it's like, oh, you're going to be going through a lot.
You're
and
a baby
nice
deer. Your legs are shaking.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. But you shouldn't be, because if you're sober, there's probably, again, a lot going on with you.
Right.
And probably your relationships with others aren't the healthiest. So don't throw yourself into a relationship.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Right.
And I did. And then I got pregnant. Whoops.
Oh.
Had a real quick abortion and was like, all right. No,
Like,
this time
all
we're
right,
not. This time
we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, when you started dating, again, from being sober, did it kind of just surprise you? You're like, okay, this really isn't bad.
Oh, it's fine.
Because, I was like, it sounds like through this episode, you're like, it wasn't really an issue at all.
People think it's going to be so fucked up.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal. You go, I'm sober, and someone either goes, oh, cool, or, actually very rarely do people go like, I can't do that. And again, that person probably has an issue, so.
Yeah, what's funny is especially with dating apps or whatever, I've oddly been like, oh, I actually kind of like when a guy is sober because I'm not a big drinker.
Yeah.
That I've thought to myself, I'm like, oh, I'm the type of person I could date someone who's fully sober.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother me at all.
There's also something about like sober people that like a lot of us, a part of my sobriety too is like, I want to like live a fucking good life.
Yeah.
And me getting hammered and like fucking up my finances and my relationships constantly is not sustainable. So a lot of sober people like, you know, work out, fucking like care about their careers, like are intentional human beings. Some people in recovery are fucking annoying. I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
There's some fucking duds in the AA rooms that are just like, you want to talk about the big book or whatever? I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dork. Right. But a lot of sober people are super fucking cool.
Yeah.
And so it's not a problem. It's also like, I'm not going to have to babysit you if you're a sober person pretty often. So,
well, I would like to think my theory of you might have better dates is an interesting motivation for anyone to just be like, let me just try not drinking. Like I've weirdly had an urge before just to go, I wonder if I would find it hard to fully not have even a sip of booze for like a year.
Yeah.
And I have never had a drinking issue.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other part of you goes, well, the fact that I am someone who can go to a wedding and have a couple drinks, have a good time and not make a fool of myself. Other people look at you like, well, you kind of have a privilege a lot of people don't have.
Sure.
That you're not embarrassing yourself and going crazy. I'm like, yeah, but it's one of those, like, I wonder if I would really miss it.
Yeah.
Or if I would be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to keep this train moving.
Well, like, I could never just have a few drinks, really.
Yeah.
Here and there, I could, you know, work functions, whatever. Like, I was functioning fairly well. But now, I'm even thinking about that, I'm like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm like...
It is a weird thought to be like, we drinking to drink or...
Right.
Yeah.
And also, as you age, fuck, man, does that probably... The hangover probably hurts the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's spending money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, drinking... If it's a fun time, like, enjoy yourself, but it is a worthwhile experiment.
Right.
You know... Also, booze long-term isn't great for you.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of intrigued of, just because I've been on a little fitness kick.
Yeah.
Because I have something coming up. I just want to, like, feel my best, look my best for,
hell yeah,
you know.
Bitch.
You know, you have those moments.
Oh, yeah.
That it's a great excuse also when people are like, oh, you want to drink? I'm like, oh, no, I have this coming up, so I'm watching or whatever. But I truly was like, I bet it would make people step up their dating game a little bit.
Of course it would.
And I'm like, I prefer those types of dates anyway. And then I'm like, it's not that I'm lying. I'll just be like, yeah, I'm just taking a break right now.
Dude, you're a motivated, successful fucking person. You're one of the most like hardworking, like forthright people that I think that you would want a partner that's the same.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Like a messy...
I think it weeds people out.
It does.
In a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like you don't have to... Booze often makes people feel like they're making connections that they aren't actually.
Yes. Very true.
I can't believe you like this fucking band too. Like, that's not that deep.
Yeah.
Because you're like 5, you know, gin and tonics in.
Yeah.
You think that you're like, this is my person.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go on another date and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did booze really gloss this over?
I've had that even not boozing on the date.
Yeah.
You just have the one date that's really great. The second date, you're like, what was that? And then vice versa, you know? So you never know. I know I'm like, Fonzie, do we have to wrap? Yeah. I know. I usually ask people a shooting your shot story, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
So we'll have to have you back sometime.
I would love to.
This has been fun, as always.
Oh, I love talking to you.
And you have a new pod.
Yes.
Which is an interview-style podcast, different topics every week.
Yes.
Called...
Dog Pig.
Yow! Look it up. But no, you've been in the podcast game a long time. You have, first of all, a nice voice to listen to.
Thank you.
And I've done your other pod,
Hot Mess Comedy.
You're a great interviewer, so people should definitely check that out.
Dude, we did your episode actually, and it was about this very topic of a person who wouldn't date you.
Yeah, I talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also fucked that guy.
I know.
And he would never acknowledge me in public. Bad guy.
No, he's a wuss, dude.
Yeah, he's a real bad
such
guy.
A little scared
I feel
bitch.
bad. I feel bad for that guy's girlfriend because he's a real piece of shit. A real big piece of shit.
Yo, people that haven't fucked that guy have said that exact line.
Oh yeah.
Feel bad for his girlfriend.
No, he's a big narcissist.
He's also just one of those people that's epitome of a friend because we were friends.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, we'll just be friends. But all of a sudden I was like, oh, you only contact me when you need something from me.
Oh,
and I do so much for this friendship. And
that guy's a shark.
Yeah.
That guy's a fucking big black-eyed shark.
Total shark.
And I wish the worst for him because he stood me up on Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Hot Mess Comedy Hour is my other podcast. Check that out. We got a real banger with Erica from back in the day. We were little baby comedians.
I know. And now I'm public about herpes, so I could talk about that if you want me to. So.
I would love to have you back on, dude. You're the best.
More herpes conversations.
Fuck yeah, good
for the
you.
people.
Everyone has herpes.
I mean, they do.
Yeah.
That's all our listeners of the show. Every single one of you have it.
Statistically, everyone has
it. Yes. Yeah. And then what's your handle where people can find you?
Andrea Comedy 69.
Yeah, that's very on brand.
Yeah,
Andrea Comedy 69. It's in the comments. It's in the description. And you can follow us at Shooters Gotta Shoot Pod. And I'm Sperica with 2 A's. And stay tuned for a Patreon preview coming up next. See y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
So I see my girl Talia get a handful of numbers. My girl Stephanie gets a handful of numbers. At the end of the night, we're talking to a different group of guys simultaneously. I brought my coworker Bree, who's also super outgoing, super chatty. And let me tell you something. You got to keep an eye out for friends like that because they're ideal for these types of situations. Because I'm ballsy. I'll talk to anybody, but I don't have a natural chattiness to me. You know what I mean? Like the little like chatterbox friend. Even think of someone like you work with. This is not Brie because I like Brie. But you know when you work with people and you're like, this girl's kind of fucking annoying because she always wants to chat, or she could just talk to the wall. She'll talk to the wall even if I don't say anything in response. That is the person you actually bring to these parties. Because they'll talk to anybody and everybody. And I don't know. They just keep it going. You know what I mean? I get to be the quiet, mysterious one standing there, which I never really am. So yeah, Stephanie gets a handful of numbers. And then as everyone's talking, I was like, you know what? The guy that we were talking to first, kind of, in the group, but then we all veered off. I was like, well, he was cute. I'm going to go do a lap, see if he's still here. So I do a lap. I see him. If you want to hear the rest of this episode, join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/shootersgottashoot. For just $5 a month, you can get an extra episode a week of all the behind-the-scenes content, and we'll answer all your questions directly over there. You get the real juice, you get the real scoop, and you get a say in who we have on the show and what we talk about on the show. Patreon.com/shootersgottashoot.